Once the viewpoints are set up, as an example of this section marker that I have right here, I can then create views. Now those views are sort of, the view map is like the staging point where we get ready to put these viewpoints onto a layout. That's the layout is sort of the final sheet that these go out to PDF or to print on. With the interior elevations in particular, let's take a look at those first. So I have this marker right here. This references this marker. Each one of these individual viewpoints references the individual cuts of that marker. I do not want to move these over individually. I want to save this entire marker so it maintains its grouping. So if I come over here to my interior elevations, first floor folder of my view map, I can select this marker. I can set the layer combination. Now these view settings are all named by the view types. So it's an interior elevation. I'm going to use the interior elevation layer combination. I can set the scale. Our interior elevations are typically at 1/2 inch scale. This is partial structure display. That's basically how much of the model we want to show based on core versus finish elements. I can set the pen set. Drafting pen set is fine. I have a model view option setting. This is like a level of detail setting. We're going to get into all of these individual settings here in a little bit. And then I have graphic overrides. These are like the exceptions to the way the attributes should look. Interior elevations don't really have any graphic overrides, but there is a set graphic override just in case. The renovation filter, these are numbered, but they do not correlate to the view settings. So it's not A7, it's non-remodel, existing, demo, new construction. New construction elevations has its own unique setting. And then the Z settings are basically for file management and audit. If it's a new project, we'll just say non-remodel if it's not a remodel project, and that's fine. We have our dimension styles. Fractional feet is standard, and our zoom is either fit in window or current zoom. Because I don't have the view open, I'm going to say fit in window. So now what I can do is just say save that view over. And now I have that interior elevation marker with its individual markers below, or views below it. Each one of these views contains the exact settings that I set up over here. There are other ways to create views from a viewpoint. So here's this section marker that I created before. I've renamed it North-South Building Section. If I right-click and open the current settings of that, wait for that to open, here's my building section. What I can do is down here at the bottom, set this to my sections layer combo, partial structure display, entire model, pen set is drafting, the model view options is going to be building sections, the graphic override, again, going to be building sections or sections. The renovation is non-remodel, and feet and inches or fractional feet. From here, I can just go to that folder, the building sections folder, right click and say save current view. I already have the view settings set up the way I need, so I don't have to set them here and then save over. With some of these viewpoints, if you have multiple viewpoints, views being created from that viewpoint, you can give them a custom name, but it's always best, if possible, to name them as far back, as far to the left in the navigator structure as possible. So instead of giving it a custom name here, we're going to name it by project map. And that means that if I ever need to rename this view, I just have to rename it at the marker. So if I select this marker type right here and say that this is main building section or whatever it needs to be called, renaming it here is going to rename it project-wide all the way up into the layout book. Now the worksheets and details are sort of unique in that they are 2D only content. And they serve different functions. So the worksheets, generally speaking, are used as like the scratch paper. So we have these for purposes of saving out DWGs. DWGs get messy on output from ArchiCAD. Taking a 3D model and turning it into 2D content creates a lot of extra lines and fills. So we can use these worksheets as sort of a preview for the quality of the DWG we're saving out. We can consolidate line work and fills and things like that and do a little bit of light cleanup before we save out the views, sorry, the DWGs for our consultants. Generally, it's things like drafted plans, notes and legends. If we click on this one, for example, there's a whole sheet of just floor plan notes, foundation notes, electrical legends, plan notes, schedule tags and notes. So there's a whole series of different things that we use that worksheet for. We use it for drafted door and window legends, opening that one up, for example, and all of these say independent after it. If you notice up here it says auto rebuild model. These are independent because they are not updating from the model. Making changes to the model does not update these. Updating these or changing these viewpoints does not make any changes to the model. The details are used for detailing, obviously. However, the difference being that the worksheets and the details essentially are the same thing. They serve different functions. So I don't like to see details being drawn as worksheets. I don't like to see the detailed viewpoints being used as a worksheet or like a scratch paper or notes and legends or anything like that. It's easiest to sort of organize and sort these if their functions are deliberate. So we have a few details already placed in here. There's a source marker sample. Details can be derived from the model. Generally speaking, the model changes and the updates to the details are just too messy and sloppy. So in the template, I created a series of starting point details. So we've got like concrete details, ceiling details, door details, etc. So if we take the details, for example, I'm just going to open the door details. Let's go ahead and close out of this. We don't need this. So in here, you can copy and paste the model into this area and use that as line work to derive the details. As an example, if I grab this door, this wall, I'm going to copy that, Command C, and let's go into the door details, and we'll paste that into here. So it says working plan views. I'm going to paste that, and here's my detail. It's obviously not at a good level of detail, but it's going to be a starting place, and it's going to match the geometry of the model. Let's suspend grouping, and I will split this around here and drag this down. So that's a way to get a quick starting point for like a jam detail or a head detail or whatever you're pulling from the model documents. Now with the door and window details, we typically would organize them head, jam, sill, and threshold sort of in a column. So all of those details would be generated right here. What I can do now is go into my view map. I'm going to set the viewpoint up right here down at the bottom. I'm going to say that I'm using the exterior detail layer combination. I don't get a partial structure display because it's not derived from the model. I'm going to set the pen set to details. That makes a few changes right away. I can see that the fills automatically generate their fill color for some of those hatches. The model view options are not too terribly important. I can say that these have a fill. That's sort of an antiquated setting there. The graphic override, same thing. I can say that that's exterior details, non-remodel, fractional feet, and inches. So these are all the view settings for generating this detail now. And I can start creating details and mocking this up before I've even drafted anything, really, which is sort of the nice thing about this system. So now I can go to my door details and maybe create a new folder here, and I'm going to say that these are sliding door details. And I can right click and say save current view. I've already preset all of those settings, but what I do want to do with this particular detail or view type is give it a custom name. So I'm going to say sliding door head. And I want to uncheck this ignore zoom because I do want it to zoom into this exact space. And I'm going to say save with the current zoom and then create. So there's my sliding door head. Let's create a new one, save current view, sliding door jam. Oh, I think I misset that. Yep, that should be current zoom, not fit in window. So now if I zoom into here and right click and say redefine with current window settings. So that'll zoom into that view zoom versus that one. And I'll pan down again. This would be maybe sliding door mullion, so save current view. Again, let's double check that this is set to current zoom. Sliding door mullion. And then lastly, sliding door threshold. Oh, and I forgot to check that again. So current zoom, zoom in on that and redefine with current view settings. So now those all get their specific zoom, specific view settings. They're all derived from the same viewpoint, but there are 4 individual views from that same viewpoint. One word of warning is that having huge model areas like this, copied and pasted and just kind of hanging out off to the side, can really create a lot of clutter. 2D content bogs down ArchiCAD, really almost worse than model elements and polygons. So if I just look at the fills here, in this really simple floor plan area, I've got 99 fills, 125 lines. These numbers easily get into the hundreds of thousands, and that much content in a single viewpoint, especially 2D content, we've seen files just really bog down and come to a screeching halt. So it's a really good idea to just delete that stuff when you're done. Keep it organized down here. I have seen people kind of keep these things organized by where they're at within the building. So if you're going to do that, it's probably a good idea to split that stuff out and then delete the stuff that you don't need, only retaining the parts of the model copied in that you need for that specific detail. But generally speaking, the more organized they are, the easier they are to find, and most importantly, make sure that they're zooming into that specific area. And once those are set up, they're ready to go on to a layout.